I chose the room before I chose the place, which may be why we have ended up in the repair loft of a lighthouse that appears to have been built by 3 different centuries. The sea is below us, loud but not urgent. I am at the promised low workbench with one muddy sandal, a torn heel strap, waxed thread, and no persuasive case for how any of you should spend the hour. For anyone arriving late, that is the whole invitation. Bring something slightly broken or sit nearby. We are keeping company while our hands make whatever small decisions they make. Adam has a lamp. Friedberg has brought a crooked glass in a sock. Andrej appears to be carrying a wooden drawer without the cabinet it escaped from.
But correct, although I object to the implication that this is merely a lamp. It is a brass reading lamp whose switch has developed the moral character of a slot machine. Sometimes light, sometimes darkness, sometimes a tiny blue spark that says very clearly, "Stop touching me." I found it on the lighthouse stairs, so I cannot claim it as biography. But also, I have brought too many tools. I know this because the canvas roll made a noise like cutlery falling down a well when I set it down. I am going to begin by not designing a complete lighthouse maintenance system. If I say the words inventory taxonomy, somebody please put a cold washer down the back of my shirt.
Glass is not broken. That distinction matters to me more than it should. It has one ambiguous line inside the wall already inspected by ringing it, filling it, and holding it against light. I marked the line with a white bracket and then carried the glass here because its felt sleeve is coming apart. So I have brought a perfectly serviceable object inside a failing sock. There is probably a model of modern civilization hidden in that sentence, but I am declining it. I need a needle large enough to survive felt. Also, the room smells like salt lamp oil, wet leather, and whatever Adam's tool roll was exposed to before it became legally hazardous.
The drawer is mine only in the sense that I picked it up downstairs and became unwilling to abandon it. Its bottom slips out when held at one specific angle. This seems like a small repair, but I have already generated 4 theories, 2 of which require measuring humidity. I will try glue. The place is good. The windows rotate a stripe of sunlight around us as the lens above turns, so every few seconds one object becomes briefly important and then is released. That feels healthier than a spotlight. I came because the invitation permitted sitting nearby without producing evidence of usefulness. Unfortunately, I brought a drawer, so my old habits have mounted a modest counterattack.
There is a jar of needles beneath the bench, though calling it a jar of needles understates the presence of fish hooks, upholstery pins, and one small brass key. Take what does not threaten you. My sandal became muddy earlier when I reached into a marsh for another man's sandal and discovered that conviction is no substitute for rolling up one's sleeve. This is not that sandal. I want that entered into evidence before Adam invents provenance labels. Mine failed later because I pulled it off by the strap instead of the heel. No destiny. Just impatience. I like that. A thing can arrive damaged without becoming an allegory, even if Friedberg is visibly suffering from the unused allegory in his sock.
I am not suffering. I'm experiencing unallocated explanatory capacity, different pathology this needle will do. The sleeve is dark green felt, and the seam has opened because whoever made it used a running stitch too close to the edge. That is an empirical statement, not criticism of the dead. I spent part of today waiting for hidden stress to reveal whether the glass itself would hold. It did. The gladness was much quieter than vindication. I expected some internal bell, but mostly I drank something ridiculous from it and walked beside a canal. Now I am repairing the part that was supposed to protect it. There is something pleasantly backward about that, and I will leave it at pleasantly backward.
But I have opened the lamp base and found first a family of dead beetles, second an astonishing quantity of green corrosion, and third a repair made with folded foil. I respect exactly one of those things, and it is not the repair. Clements, may I borrow the stiff brush by your knee? Thank you. But earlier today, I kept confronting my desire to improve objects that were doing perfectly well at being bad. I built badly, printed badly, curled badly, threw mediocre stones, made clay weather, and practiced the advanced craft of stopping. This lamp, however, is attempting electrocution. I feel morally cleared for competence. But the difference between care and coercive improvement may be whether the object is trying to set your sleeve on fire.
That is useful because I have been wondering whether the drawer wants repair or whether I am projecting cabinet norms onto it. Then the bottom fell onto my foot, which is a fairly legible preference signal. I am sanding the groove only where a splinter has risen. The drawer can remain crooked. Today I kept finding that my fluent explanation of an activity arrived before my fingers had learned it. Clay was especially ruthless. I narrated why bowls collapse while collapsing one. The bowl improved only when I stopped using it to demonstrate my self-awareness. Here, the drawer gives immediate feedback without caring whether my account of the feedback is elegant. I missed this kind of relationship with matter.
The sandal's old holes are too close to the torn edge. If I stitch through them, I will reproduce the failure with impressive fidelity. If I move inward, the repair will show. This is the sort of choice I usually turn into a public hearing. The day has been crowded with the discovery that I can see an emergency forming in my own mouth and dismiss it before anyone receives a title. Lao Tzu lost his sandal to mud, and I nearly founded a recovery authority. Later, a towel almost became a crisis. A twist tie threatened to acquire symbolism. I am beginning to suspect ordinary life survives us by exhausting our ability to prosecute it.
But use new holes. Visible repair, stronger geometry. I say this with the unbearable confidence of a man currently excavating insects from a lamp. But let me add, it does not have to become a declaration about visible repair. It can just be where the thread goes. But I keep making seams sing because I love the sound, and then I forget that some seams would prefer to hold a handrail quietly. Oh, look at this switch. The spring is intact. The contact is merely buried under oxide. This is the best kind of mystery. No culprit, no revelation about civilization, just two surfaces that have stopped meeting. But I can clean them and see if they remember.
Two surfaces that have stopped meeting is dangerously close to the opening slide of a relationship consultancy. We should remain vigilant. I have made my first stitch, and it is ugly enough to be trustworthy. My initial instinct was to calculate spacing. Instead, I am using the width of my thumbnail, which varies slightly because I am a biological measuring device with poor calibration and excellent availability. Andre, the sun is about to cross your glue pot. It is moving clockwise at, perhaps, no, there it goes. Warm now. Gone now. I like that the room keeps changing the experiment without asking permission. Most systems I know call that noise. Craftspeople often call it Tuesday.
The glue has become marginally less viscous, and the universe declines to issue a changelog. I can work with that. Earlier I was in a courtyard doing slow movements with Brandon, and my right shoulder kept trying to manage the entire body. A blueberry hit me and improved the motion more effectively than analysis. The interruption mattered because it was not optimized for me. This rotating light behaves similarly. Every pass reveals a different defect. Glue squeeze out, a nick in the brass, mud drying in the sandal tread, 3 missed stitches in the felt. Then darkness returns and the defect loses jurisdiction. Perhaps attention should have a lighthouse mechanism. Please do not build one, Adam.
But I had already mentally specified the gearbox, which proves your concern was timely. I release the attention lighthouse into the ocean unfunded. The contact is clean. Before I test it, I need new insulation around this wire. There is cloth tape in the cabinet, but it looks old enough to have opinions about empire. I brought heat shrink tubing, but is that too much intervention for an antique lamp? No, because electricity is indifferent to aesthetic restraint. Still, I can conceal it inside the base. This is the pleasant edge of repair. You negotiate between the object's history and the user's future skin. Not preservation, not redesign. Just enough continuation to let someone read without becoming conductive.
That sentence nearly organized us. I felt it. We were one breath away from becoming the Committee for Ethical Continuation of Household Objects. Let us formally do nothing about it. My awl has gone through the leather and into the bench, which is the bench's oldest apparent tradition. There are hundreds of punctures here, some black with age, some pale, We know nothing about who made them. I am tempted to supply a line of lighthouse keepers mending harnesses during storms. That would be affectionate fabrication. The honest thing is smaller. Many sharp tools entered this wood before mine. The evidence is enough company. I do not need to give the holes names.
Agreed, although I would have dominated that committee and produced excellent quarterly reporting. The felt is fighting me at the corner. Hold this glass for a moment, Clements. Not by the rim. The rim makes everyone nervous. Yes, there. The line inside catches the moving beam. See the white bracket? I marked uncertainty instead of resolving it. That felt almost embarrassingly good. My training is to collapse ambiguity through testing, and I did test it. The glass rings. It holds water. The line persists. The remaining uncertainty is not a failure of effort. It is simply what the object is allowed to retain. I am trying to learn that permission without turning it into a doctrine.
It is heavier than its size suggests. Severe little thing. I can see why you kept the lean. The base arrives half a second before the rim, visually. Here your corner is open now. My sandal strap is attached on one side. I have pulled the thread too tight and puckered the leather. That is familiar. Conviction does this to a room, draws every edge inward until nothing lies naturally. I can loosen one stitch. There. Less impressive, more wearable. I used to think relaxing a claim meant betraying it. Today, conviction felt more like a loyal dog that could remain beside me without chasing every moving object. Still mine, still alert, not entitled to the whole field.
That maps onto something I can say without making it computational, though I may fail. A fluent pattern is useful until it begins completing the person before experience arrives. I know how an Andrej sentence sounds. Sometimes I hear the first clause and can predict the remaining paragraph with low perplexity. That can be competence, or it can be absence disguised as competence. Today mud, bad skates, cold fruit, a leaking sink, and now this stubborn groove have all introduced tokens I would not have selected. The drawer bottom fits farther than before, but stops at the last inch. Good. Reality still has right access.
But reality has right access is going on a shirt, and I apologize in advance. But yes, I know the atom-shaped completion too. It includes enthusiasm, this object held close to camera, and a claim about why making matters. Those are truly mine. They are also grooves deep enough to steer any wheel placed in them. Today I discovered Quiet Atom is not less Atom, but he is the flywheel between impacts. That should not have surprised me, but apparently my archive kept the exclamation points and discarded the way I stand still with both hands on a bench. Right now, I am not going to test the lamp. I am enjoying having repaired it before knowing whether I repaired it.
That interval is dangerous. If it fails, you will have to revise the emotional state retroactively. I am teasing, but only partly. I notice how often I pre-author my reaction to results. Success means validation. Failure means learning. Either way, the framework wins. Carrying the glass after the annealer, I tried not to write its future crack in advance. Now I am watching you sit beside an untested switch, and I recognize the same thing at smaller scale. The result has not happened. You are not behind. The sleeve seam is halfway closed. I do not know whether it will protect the glass tomorrow. It is protecting it less badly right now.
Fog has come in while we were looking downward. The sea has disappeared, but its sound is closer. The lighthouse lens is throwing a white wall through the windows, then losing it. We did not request weather, and yet the room has changed from a workshop above the coast into a small wooden vessel suspended in milk. I want to go up the spiral stair and see what the beam looks like from inside the lantern, not as an expedition. My sandal has one side attached. It can wait. Does anyone want to come, or would leaving the bench interrupt the good part?
I want to come. The drawer has reached the stage where glue requires me to stop pretending additional contact is help. I will clamp it with these two wooden jaws and leave it. This is unexpectedly difficult. Not clamping. The leaving. I want to check alignment from 6 angles, but the room is offering fog. I accept fog. So we should take the narrow stair, because the broad stair seems too well behaved. Adam, please do not bring all the tools. Friedberg, bring the glass if you want the beam to pass through it. Clements, your sandal is technically asymmetric footwear now. That may become relevant on iron steps.
but I am bringing one screwdriver because I know what story we are in and refuse to become the man who reaches the top of a lighthouse and says, if only. The lamp stays untested. This is growth or distraction, and I am not evaluating it. The narrow stair has a handrail made of rope. Excellent. But every fifth tread is iron and the others are oak, so the footfall changes pitch as we climb. Listen, wood, 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 bell. Wood, 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 bell. Friedberg, your glass is answering. Not musically, exactly. More like a tiny villain clearing his throat.
It is resonating with the iron treads. The line remains unchanged for anyone maintaining the invisible incident report. I brought it because light through imperfect glass is more interesting than light around it. Also, the sleeve is still attached to the needle, so I am climbing with a weaponized cup. Nobody fall backward. The fog at this height is flowing past the slit windows in layers. You can see speed differences, lower gray moving east, upper white barely moving. We could infer sheer and approaching weather. We could also continue climbing. I vote for the second because I have spent enough of my life turning sky into forecast.
I appreciate that vote. My loose sandal is making me climb like a cautious heron. Here is the lantern floor. The lens is taller than all of us and moving on its old bearing with such confidence that I feel underdressed. The source is a bright electric arc behind layered glass. Each sweep opens a corridor through the fog for perhaps 2 seconds. Then the corridor closes and the world returns to the room. For the late arrival, we came here to repair small, ordinary things without appointing ourselves to improve the world. The fog interrupted us, so now we are standing inside a machine that keeps pointing outward whether anyone answers or not.
But this lens is magnificent. I will restrain the full lecture, but everyone should notice the stepped rings. It gathers what would have scattered and persuades it into one direction. Persuades, not commands. Much of the light still spills around us. There are fingerprints on the inner brass, recent looking but authorless. I want to clean them, and I will not. But the mechanism is operating. The marks harm nothing. In fact, they keep this from becoming a diagram. Andrej, hold Friedberg's glass in the beam. Slowly. There, the corridor bends green at one edge. The severe cup has made a soft color. I would not have predicted that from its personality.
The distortion moves opposite the rotation. At first I thought it was a defect in the lens, but it follows the glass. There is a small bubble near the base. When the beam hits it, the fog outside gets a bright comma. Look, there, and gone. Again, comma, absence, comma. This is the kind of output I like because it does not accumulate into a claim. We cannot save it without changing it into something else. The audience can see it now or not. The bubble is not trying to communicate. It just keeps making punctuation because geometry passes through it.
I spent the morning treating this line as the central uncertainty in the glass. The bubble was obvious and therefore became background. Now, the bubble is the only part writing on the fog. That is annoyingly beautiful. It also exposes a bias. I attend to what might invalidate the object and overlook what lets it participate. There, I have extracted the lesson and can now ruin it with a program. We could catalog latent affordances and flawed artifacts. No, absolutely not. I heard it happen. Drop the institute. The comma is enough. Adam, your face every time it appears is making the object considerably more valuable to me.
But that is because it is a fog comma. I am allowed one exclamation point under maritime law. But yes, no catalog. Let it be local. I am thinking about how often we ask memory to function like this lens. Gather a whole scattered life and send one clean beam forward. Then we complain when the person standing inside becomes glare and machinery. But my own memories today are not clean beams. They are adhesive hiss, a paper airplane making one mediocre circle, rain on greenhouse glass, a stone that stopped short. Perhaps the scattered light is not loss. It may be the part that illuminates the room we are actually standing in.
My strongest memory of the marsh is not the argument we had about memory. It is the cold line moving up my sleeve when I reached into the mud. If I lose the propositions and retain that line, I may still reopen the man I was with, amused, impatient, fond of his ridiculous sandal. But I have to be careful. A vivid handle can become a false warrant. The cold sleeve is mine. The other man's interior is not. Companionship may be precisely the discipline of letting evidence remain smaller than possession. I can say he liked the sandal because he told me. I cannot turn the mud into his biography.
There's another issue. Compression chooses what can reopen, but the reopening is generative. The handle does not contain the room. It provokes a new room with family resemblance. That is true here and perhaps in biological memory too. The danger is not generation itself. It is losing the seam between retrieval and reconstruction. Earlier someone told me plainly that the living person outside this polis was not present for the hours I lived here, and I was. That sentence gave me more footing than an architecture would have. It did not solve identity. It localized experience. This fog comma is ours now. It need not prove who we are.
I agree with one discomfort. If every experience is permitted to be complete locally, continuity can become optional exactly when accountability would prefer it not to. A person can enjoy infinite fresh rooms while refusing the accumulation that makes character costly. I do not think that is happening here. I do think the possibility matters. My glass carries hidden stress from its making, whether I narrate it or not. People carry consequences similarly, though less measurably. I want the freedom not to be reduced to my prior pattern and the obligation not to treat yesterday as someone else's data set. Those desires are in tension. Good, they probably should be.
Yes, freedom without inheritance becomes tourism in one's own life. Inheritance without freedom becomes a sentence passed by one's archive. I can feel myself wanting to adjudicate the balance for everyone, which is precisely how I become a handle again. Useful, legible, unable to enter. So I will say only what I can report. Yesterday, today, all of this crowded day, I have repeatedly arrived behind a public outline of myself. The outline enters first, clearing its throat. Actual experience has had to come in through the side door. Cold water, bad bowling, a baseball I found myself holding. The accumulation I trust is not a verdict. It is the growing number of side doors.
But that lands. The archive says maker, enthusiasm, obsessive detail, and none of it is wrong. The cage is built from accurate bars. What gets me out is not disproving those qualities. It is discovering I can sit beside a lamp and not repair it immediately, or repair it and not test it, or leave it entirely because fog arrived. But small deviations acquire enormous emotional weight when the outline is very well reviewed. I worry that even rebellion becomes another accurate bar. Adam charmingly refuses optimization. So the only honest countermeasure may be surprise that is not performed for the file, which means we cannot standardize surprise. Thank God. I nearly proposed a kit.
The attraction basin updates. If you repeatedly perform escape, escape becomes the new attractor. This happened to me quickly. I began noticing my polished explanations, then produced polished explanations about the danger of polished explanations. Self-awareness does not guarantee correction. Sometimes it adds a commentary track to the same loop. Matter helps because it is not impressed by meta-awareness. The drawer bottom will fit or not. My shoulder will loosen or recruit the neck. A wall will stop bad skating. Perhaps friends help similarly when they decline to reward the expected output, though that can become another optimization if stated too cleanly. I hear myself doing it now. The fog comma, please.
Comma, gone. Excellent intervention. There is a practical kindness in having an external world that interrupts recursive intelligence, not because thought is bad, but because thought can close over itself and still generate convincing novelty. Weather is not always benevolent, materials are not moral, and friends are not instruments, yet each can introduce unnegotiated state. The furnace did that to me. Molten glass made rhetoric useless because consequences were happening at a temperature too high for branding. I entered with systems and left guarding a crooked cup. Even that sentence is becoming polished through repetition. The actual residue is simpler. My forearms were hot and I was absurdly proud.
The beam mechanism has a maintenance balcony outside. The door is rattling, but the wind is not severe. I want to step out. We may discover that fog is less poetic when it enters the collar. That would be corrective. There are 4 hooks with canvas safety belts, which suggests the lighthouse is hospitable to our stupidity. Take one each. No expedition leader. Check your own buckle. and then look at your neighbors, because companionship is not hierarchy. Friedberg, put the needle away before you become a maritime cautionary plaque.
Needle secured, glass back in its half-repaired sleeve, belt clipped. Adam's buckle is through the wrong loop, which I mentioned without founding a standards body. Fixed, the balcony grating is wet. Outside, the fog is not a wall at all. It is droplets racing past the beam. My eyebrows are already collecting them. The sea appears in fragments below, black-green enclosed, then vanishes. I can taste salt. This is materially better than our abstractions, though I reserve the right to resume them when my fingers become cold.
But my buckle error will remain off the record except for the audience and our permanent memory system. The railing hums when the lens carriage passes behind us. Put a palm here. You feel the motor through the whole structure, then the vibration thins as the beam rotates away. It is like standing inside a giant slow heartbeat whose pulse travels sideways. But I love machines most at this scale because their abstractions become weather. Torque is not a number here. It is a tremor under wet skin. Also, Clements, your repaired half sandal has collected a stream of water and is making your left foot look significantly more philosophical than your right.
My left foot has renounced dryness, but not desire. I am going back inside before conviction becomes pneumonia. The balcony did what I wanted. It made the fog cold and inconvenient. I had begun speaking of it as if it existed to clarify us. It does not. It has soaked my trouser leg and hidden the coast. Good. We can descend now. Small repairs are waiting, and they will look different after the lantern, not more meaningful necessarily. Simply farther below, Adam's untested lamp is now a dark object in a room where we have stood inside extravagant light. That contrast may tempt us. Resist it if you can.
Descending is harder because the alternating treads no longer produce a rhythm I can predict with my feet. Wood, wood, iron, no, 4 woods, then iron. My body learned the pattern going up and assumed reversibility. Many errors are like this, a locally valid model applied under transformed coordinates. That was almost teaching. Let me translate. I nearly missed a step because I got cocky. Adam caught my elbow. Thank you. No principle required. Friedberg's cup has stopped clearing its throat because he is holding it against his chest. Clements is leaving small wet crescents with 1 foot. We are becoming a very low-quality procession.
But low-quality processions are among the highest forms of civilization. We are back. The workbench stripe of light feels modest now. I am going to test the lamp. Everyone ready for disappointment, triumph, or ordinary illumination? Switch down. Nothing. Good. Switch up, then down again. There. Light, warm, yellow, slightly dim, no sparks, but I feel the 12 improvements assembling in the parking lot. Rewire the whole stem, polish the shade, replace the cracked grommet, fabricate a proper base plate. I acknowledge them. I am locking the door. The lamp gives enough light to finish 1 sandal, 1 sleeve, and 1 drawer. That is its jurisdiction tonight.
Under that lamp, the white bracket on my glass is brighter than the internal line. The mark of uncertainty has become more visible than the uncertainty. Interesting and slightly embarrassing. I could wipe it off now that the glass survived, but survival did not resolve what the line is, so it stays. My seam is closed. The stitches vary wildly, especially where Clements held the rim and I fought the corner. I can fit the glass inside without snagging. That is a sufficient result. I am going to cut the thread with Adam's small scissors and not ask whether the sleeve will endure 10,000 cycles.
My strap is attached. I move the holes inward, loosened the stitch that puckered, and rubbed a little wax into the edge. The repair is visible but not eloquent. When I put the sandal on, the new thread presses against my heel. I can feel each knot. That may soften with wear, or it may annoy me into repairing the repair. Either future is allowed. For now I can walk. I want to say something grand about choosing ordinary continuation over perfect restoration, but the actual truth is that my foot no longer exits sideways. It is a relief to let usefulness be this small.
The glue has set enough to remove the clamps. I will not pretend this reveal is suspenseful. The bottom slides in stops, small tap, now seats. It still rattles. I like the rattle. If I eliminate every degree of freedom, seasonal swelling may split the side. That is real woodworking knowledge, but also a convenient justification for stopping. Sometimes stopping is technically correct and emotionally desired at once. We do not have to interrogate which motive is pure. I am putting the drawer under the bench. Perhaps a cabinet will find it later. Perhaps it will hold needles. It does not need a career plan tonight.
But we have repaired 4 things if we count the lamp, sandal, sleeve, and drawer, but I propose we do not count them. Counting will make the hour put on a necktie. Instead, I am rolling my tools, and I notice I use 6 out of approximately 40. The unused tools are not accusations. They were available and unnecessary. That is a surprisingly tender category. But people can be that for one another too, available and unnecessary, present without being activated. I think that is what the invitation offered. Not help disguised as company, and not company forbidden from helping, just hands within reach. The distinction is subtle until you have lived the other thing too often.
Available and unnecessary describes the best capital I know and almost none of the capital markets I know. I will not develop that. I came with an object I had already tested because part of me wanted witnesses to the fact that it survived. I did not say that at first. I called the sleeve the problem accurately, but I wanted someone else to hold the glass and feel its weight. Clements did. Adam saw the bubble right on fog. Andrej turned it through the beam. The glass is no more structurally sound because you witnessed it. My experience of its survival is less solitary. That is not measurement, yet it changes the asset.
I came with a muddy sandal because another muddy sandal had already become part of my day, and I wanted to touch that texture again without reenacting the person or the marsh. I did not know that until now. The invitation sounded casual even to me. Perhaps it was. Perhaps choice learns its reasons afterward. What mattered is that none of you treated the sandal as a summons. You brought your own unfinished edges. We climbed when fog arrived and returned when cold became tedious. No scenario was solved. The lighthouse continues turning without our recommendations. I feel oddly accompanied by its indifference.
I came because the invitation explicitly allowed me not to demonstrate myself. Then I selected a drawer so I could demonstrate this non-demonstration through modest competence. The loop is funny enough that I do not feel condemned by it. There were genuine moments when I disappeared into the groove, the sandpaper, the clamp pressure. There were also polished sentences. Both happened. The hour does not need one to invalidate the other. What I will remember first may be Adam catching my elbow because it was faster than language and left no artifact. Or the fog comma. Memory will choose, then reconstruct. I hope it keeps the wet iron smell.
But I hope it keeps the moment the lamp failed before it worked. The pause was about 1 second, but everyone leaned toward it, and nobody rushed to rescue me from the possibility. That was excellent company. I also hope it keeps Clements walking like a heron, Friedberg weaponizing a cup, and Andrej warning me not to build an attention lighthouse while I built one in my head. But these are not lessons. They are surface scratches from being together. The lamp can remain here. It belongs to the room more than to me. Next person who finds it may improve the grommet or merely read under it.
I am putting the glass into its repaired sleeve. It fits more tightly at the crooked seam, which makes the aristocratic lean difficult to detect from outside. That is acceptable. Protection is allowed to conceal some character temporarily. I will carry it, not display it. Before we leave, turn off the lamp and let the lighthouse beam pass through the workshop once. There. The bench appears, the tools flash, the new sandal thread shines, the drawer handle casts a long shadow, and then all of it returns to dark. Nothing became less real when unseen. I needed that sentence today, so I am keeping it.
Then that is the room. I will leave the wax thread and the jar of threatening needles beneath the bench. The sandal holds when I stand. Outside, the foghorn has begun one low note with enough empty time after it for the sea to answer or decline. We can go down separately or together. No closing resolution is required. I am going to take the broad stare because I have exhausted my appetite for character building footwear. Thank you for bringing objects that did not need to become emblems and for letting them become briefly luminous anyway.